Okay, here we go. We are continuing with Becoming Naomi Leon, Chapter 2, A Skulk of Foxes. How you doing, Stacy?
Skulk.
Okay. A skulk of foxes. Skulk is a spelling word, so hopefully they all know what a skulk is. All right. A skulk of foxes. Remember, there was a knock at the door, which is the way a real good story always starts. Stranger comes to town, so there's a knock at the door. The knocking became a pounding, and someone yelled, "Anyone home?" "That's not Fabiola," said Graham. "Naomi, you expecting anyone?" I shook my head. I thought I'd heard that voice before, but I couldn't put it to a face. Setting the bowl aside, my hand twitched and I missed the counter. The 3 soap carvings tumbled to the floor in a rain of white, feathery shavings. "For heaven's sake, Naomi," said Graham. "It looks like a fox got into the hen house. Clean that up, lickety-split, and I'll get the door." Graham got up, turned off the television, and reached the door in one step. Did I mention company's coming twice? I hope it isn't someone trying to sell me something and me and my clown head. I surely don't need door-to-door makeup. Her clown head is the roller she's got in her hair.
Makes you think of Avon.
Avon. If it was a salesperson, they'd have to talk to Graham through the screen because she never, ever set foot outside the trailer in her hair curlers. Graham opened the door. She narrowed her eyes like she was trying to focus real hard. While I cleaned up the soap mess, I craned my neck to see who was standing on the step. "Well, aren't you going to invite me in?" Graham truly looked like she'd seen an apparition, which is what she calls a ghost. She finally stepped aside, and a lady walked in pulling a big plastic garbage bag that she had to tug through the small door opening. "I got my belongings to fit in this one bag, and that's a miracle," said the lady. "You all were hard to find. I looked in 3 phone books before I found the address. I never suspected you'd be living in a trailer park." She wore jeans, red boots, a black leather jacket, and a hefty splash of sweet gardenia perfume. Her hair looked like that crayon called maroon, the one that's not purple and not red, but something in between. And for some reason, I couldn't take my eyes off her lipstick. It was the exact same color as her hair and went up and down in a perfect rounded M on her top lip. Owen sniffed the sweet air. The lady looked at Owen and me and in a sing-song way, "Hi!" When she got no more than a blink from us, she sat down on the covered bench that served as the seat for the kitchen table. When the table was put up, the seat doubled as a fold-out bed. She took a long look at us, then turned to Graham, who was still holding the door wide open, and said, "Just look at these babies." All I could think was that nobody in their right mind would ever mistake me for a baby. Sure, Owen looked more like a kindergartner than a 2nd grader, but it was for positive that he was nowhere near babyhood. Graham finally shut the door. The lady said, "My, you 2 have gotten big." A strange, queasy feeling crawled around in my stomach. "Naomi, Owen," she said, "get yourselves on over here and give me a hug." Now, who do you suppose this is? Thoughts? Slowly, Graham shook her head back and forth, still looking dazed. "You can't just waltz in here after all these years and expect these children to recognize you." "Don't be silly," said the lady. "Children always know their mother. Don't you, darlings?" The words swarmed in my mind. "Our mother?" said Owen, his gravelly voice crackling. Thoughts, Stacy? Do you want to add anything?
About the person that just showed up, the company?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering more.
Okay. My
Like,
heart pounded so hard that I feared it would leap across the room, and my thoughts started jumping up and down on a trampoline and bouncing off the corners of my mind. That's a great visual. Can you
yeah.
imagine that? The thought bouncing around, not unlike some children I know. Her face was round like Owen's, and her skin was so white, it was almost pink, like Owen's. I suppose that came from all the Oklahoma in her, but she didn't look anything like the pictures of the blonde teenager that Graham had shown us over the years. Still, her eyes and the smell of her perfume were strangely familiar.
But
Graham,
you know how I feel about
yeah,
smell. How smell for me is just always, that's my first trigger of memories is smell.
really, because, well,
Yeah.
you are the super sniffer. Me, smell is really hard for me. It's sound,
Yeah.
but I guess for different people, different things trigger their memories. Graham said, Naomi, Owen, go on in your room so I can talk to Terry Lynn. Oh, that's not my name anymore. I changed it to Skyla. Isn't it beautiful? Naomi and Owen, come on over here. I would like to hug my children. We looked at Graham and she nodded. Owen went first and reached up to hug Skyla, but before he could, she said, oh, look, you have something stuck to your shirt. And she reached down and started to pull off the long piece of tape pressed across his chest. Owen clasped his hands over the tape. Graham and I yelled at the same time, no! He likes it, I said. It's just a little comfort thing he does, said Graham. Some kids had blankets or stuffed animals they dragged around. Others got contentment from twirling their hair or sucking their thumbs. Owen had to have tape stuck to his shirt, the clear kind people used to wrap presents. For some reason, it brought him a peculiar satisfaction. Think about what tape is used for. Holding things together.
Mm-hmm.
Skyla pulled her hand back. He wears it on purpose? She looked from Graham to me to Owen. Then she started laughing. Woman, what have you done to this boy? Graham's eyes got all beady, like pigeon's eyes. He's just fine. There's no harm done. Owen looked at Skyla as if she was a fairy princess, but still didn't take his hands off the tape. He gave her his biggest jack-o'-lantern smile. I swore his mouth was too big for his face, and said in a dreamy sort of way, it's all right. You didn't know. So his biggest jack-o'-lantern smile, that's a lovely metaphor. And she swore his mouth was too big for his face. That sounds like some hyperbole. Just saying.
Our second book were smiles.
Mm-hmm. I walked over to Skyla and she put her hands on my shoulders, keeping me at arm's length. She did that sort of leaning in type hug with a quick cheek to cheek touch. It was not the, I haven't seen you in 7 years type of hug that I would have expected. Then she did the same thing to Owen. I put my arm around Mr. Starry Eyes and herded him to the bedroom. As soon as we were there, Owen grabbed my hands and started jumping up and down. It's our mother, it's our mother. Maybe she missed us and wants to know all about us and has presents for us. Shh, Owen, stop, I said. We were only a lick and a promise from the living room / kitchen, separated by a flimsy accordion door, which I did not shut. I wanted to hear the conversation word for word. I need a place to hang out for a while, said Skyla. These children don't know you. Well, it's about time they did. You should have thought of that years ago, said Graham. I'm not going to have you coming in here, Terry Lynn, and messing with their lives. I told you. My name is Skyla. And where did that come from? Said Graham. My new boyfriend, Clive. He said I didn't look like a Terry Lynn. He said I look beautiful, like the sky. I'm Skyla Jones now. I went back to my maiden name. And for your information, I'm not here to mess up these kids' lives. I'm just here for a visit while Clive's at training. Training? Said Graham. He's a tattoo artist, said Skyla. And don't look at me with that hard-eyed stare. There's good money in tattoos. He's learning dragons and flames from a guy in downtown San Diego. Clive is staying with him at the studio, and it's too small for me too. So I thought since I was in the area, it would be a good time to, reconnect with my children. Where have you been all this time? Asked Graham. I've had some trouble. What kind of trouble? Said Graham. Even though my ear was straining to catch a phrase, their voices gathered in a whirl of whispers I couldn't hear. Then we heard Skyla yell, "You can go along with me or not. I'm their mother, and Clive says I have rights." Now we could hear Graham loud and clear. "You left those children with me when that boy was a year old and covered head to hide with infected insect bites. Naomi was 4 and didn't even talk until she was almost 6. Don't make out like it was such a big deal, interrupted Skyla. Naomi was always stubborn and quiet, and Owen just had a few flea bites. No, ma'am, said Graham. Naomi went to a counselor for 2 years. She had selective mutism. That's what they call it. From insecurities and Lord knows what other trauma during her young life. That's what the counselor told us. And Naomi still doesn't talk much. Owen was on antibiotics for 3 months to get him cleared up. There's no telling what went on in Mexico that caused those children's abominations. And now, 7 years later, after you never sent a card or made a telephone call to even let us know you were alive, you want to talk about your rights? There was a little hitch in Graham's voice. Terry Lynn, they're tied to me. You promised I could raise them proper with no interference. That's what we agreed on before you left. Naomi and Owen seem fine now, so I couldn't have been that bad. And I've changed my mind about seeing them, that's all. Now, I'm going to meet Clive, but I'll be back later, and I'd appreciate you calling me Skyla. When the trailer door closed, the floor jiggled beneath our feet. Owen and I ran to the louvered window and looked out. There was just enough brightness from the porch light to see Skyla getting into a red Mustang, touch up her lipstick, and pull away from the trailer. She tore out of trailer park going faster than the posted 15-mile-per-hour speed limit. Part of me couldn't wait to see her again. The other part of me was wringing my hands like a contestant in the Worrywart Olympics. All of a sudden, I had a million questions. Why did she come back? How long was she going to stay? Would she like us? Would we like her? My thoughts dived into a jumble in the middle of my mind, wrestled around until they were wadded into a fisted knot and attached themselves to my brain like a burr matted in a long-haired dog.
Is that a simile, right?
I think it's a simile.
It's a simile, right?
It might be a simile.
My brain like a burr matted in a long-haired dog. Because I think you had mentioned that something they could do was to, in their notebooks, notice the literary
devices.
Similes, alliteration, hyperboles.
Yeah, so you can also start a little chart about the characters. Yeah. So far, we have our narrator, who is Naomi.
That's how you spell her name, if anyone needs to know.
And her brother, Owen. And their great-grandmother, Graham. And we just met Terry Lynn, also known as Skyla. So, I got my whiteboard here. One day.
Fabiola.
Oh, well, we haven't really met Fabiola and
Yeah, okay, that wasn't
Yeah.
the first chapter. Okay.
So I'm going to make a little chart like this. And we know some stuff about Naomi. She's in 5th grade.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
And she's our narrator. She's the one telling us the story. And she, funny enough, she's the narrator telling us the story, but we've heard that she does not talk a lot.
and she talks really quiet, which is hard to do in a read aloud because you need everyone to hear, but she almost talks in a whisper.
Talk softly. All right. I'll add that.
And then Owen has like the gravelly voice.
Owen has a gravelly voice.
Ooh, a lot of voice stuff.
And he has some physical issues, right? One leg shorter than the other. He's got that tape situation going on. But he's also really smart.
Really smart.
And he wants a bicycle. We learned that last time.
Yeah.
I suddenly can't spell bicycle, so I'm gonna write bike.
No prefix, bye.
And let's see, Graham is their great grandmother. And she's old. And she takes care of them. All right. And then we've got Terry Lynn, Skyla. Did I spell Terry Lynn right, Stacy?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
All right. She hasn't seen her children in 7 years. She left them for Graham to take care of. She's back now with her boyfriend, Clive.
We're trying to become a tattoo artist.
Yeah, he's gonna be a tattoo artist. He's learning dragons and flames. There's a lot about her, like she's changed her name.
Her hair.
And her hair.
Color, sorry. Yeah,
color. Hair. And it talks a lot about the M of her lips. Right? So I'm gonna write those kinds of things down to keep track of.
Yeah, it's like the lipstick, the lip liner.
Yeah.
It's like the M.
And think about what those sorts of things tell you about our characters. And just, then you can go ahead and do a know and wonder chart.
Right.
5 things you know, 5 things you're wondering. If you'd like to share some of the things you're wondering about, you can add them to our classroom and we'll talk about them next time, hopefully.
Yeah, so I've written to, I think I've finally put it in something, I can't remember, but some of you have your reading notebooks, put it in your reading notebook. I also suggested if you don't have your notebooks, if you just have one remote learning notebook at home, put everything in that one notebook. Just make sure you title and date each page so you know what it is. We're not going to be very strict on that because do what you got to do.
Oh no, I want everyone to put it on their desk and turn it around so I can come around and read what you've written.
Exactly. Just also to remind students, the first chapter was called, I had it a minute ago and then I got off, A Paddling of Ducks.
Oh yeah.
It was called, what was it? A
Skulk of Foxes.
Just to kind of keep that in your head about.
Add that in here somewhere. There seems to be a lot about animals. Yeah. I'm just going to keep that in mind.
At the end, I think you mentioned it in the YouTube video, the first chapter we did, just about the group of animals. You had mentioned it, just to put it back out there.
Yeah. Okay. Yay. All right.
All right, guys.
That's all for today, and next time, chapter 3.
Invest in a more comfortable chair. I'm starting to kind of feel what these kids are talking about of not being comfortable.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
Maybe you
got
need to get up and drink some water, blow your nose, and go to the bathroom.
All right, so yeah, so stay tuned for chapter today's.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.